Hey, everybody. This is Todd from the Guitar Knobs. I just want to let you know this is part one of a two-part series with Echopark Guitars. Our entire interview went almost 2 hours, so I figured I'd break it up into two pieces for us. So we're going to hear some amazing stories from these guys. It was fantastic listening to them, and we're hanging on every word. You're going to learn an awful lot about where his humble beginnings were with Mr. Leo Fender himself. So enjoy the show. Hey, welcome to Guitar Knobs, the guitars, gear, noise, and nonsense podcast, hosted today by these knobs.
Tony Dudzik, Pick Guardian.
Jared Brandon Mahone Pickups.
Hey, it is me, Todd Novak. We are super happy that you are listening to our little podcast, The Guitar Knobs. We are thrilled to be here today. We are excited to talk about guitar stuff. We hope you've had an awesome guitar stuff week or whatever. And we've got a humongoid show. It's going to be, look, guys, this is going to be a little bit longer, I can guarantee, but it's going to be great. Awesome. We're really excited to have in our little part of the world, our little studio here in Columbus, Ohio, Echopark Guitars and Amplifiers. So who are you?
I'm Gabriel.
Gabriel.
Yeah.
And you make Echopark Guitars, yes?
That's what they say.
Okay. Yeah. And then who's alongside of you here?
My name's Eric.
Eric.
And I build the amplifiers for Gabriel.
There you go.
And other people that want to play them.
Right on. So this is Echopark Guitars and Amplifiers, maybe a lesser known amplifiers, but we're going to get into that. I think, obviously you're known for your guitars, and that's what we're going to spend a lot of time on, but I think it's worth enlightening everybody about not only your amplifiers, but your pedals too.
Ah, yes.
Which we have in front of us. And hey, everybody, we've got an announcement towards the end of the show that we are very excited about. So just want to remind you that we are broadcasting our show on Rode microphones. Rode was kind enough to give us the awesome Procaster microphone and equipment. Thank you, Gabriel. And we are just so grateful for that. It keeps the show going, and hopefully you guys have heard a great improvement on our sound.
The best.
As he says it. So thank you, Rode microphones. We want to take a moment to thank Reverb for the support of the show and for being a champion of the boutique guitar, pedal, amp, and gear brands out there. Many of whom, those of us who love to buy and sell gear would have never come across. And for those who are building the gear, who may never have had a big enough stage to sell their products and grow their brand, like Gabriel.
I love you.
So thanks, Reverb. We greatly appreciate it. All of us guitar nuts out there. So, gentlemen, briefly, what's going on in our music world this week? I'm going to start with Eric. Microphone, son.
Let's see. Actually, some sad news. My friend went to see Robin Trower the other night in Baltimore, and about an hour into the show, they took him off in an ambulance. And
oh, geez.
What?
Yeah.
I heard that.
Yeah, this was 2 days ago. So he's got the flu.
Oh,
so
okay.
Hopefully that's all it is.
All right.
Canceled like 3 days.
Oh, geez.
Because Trower was huge deal to me as a kid, and still to this day he rocks, man. And so hopefully he's
get better.
He's
up
doing
Trower.
well. Yeah, that's
Excellent.
a little news.
Okay. While we got the mic over there, let's go to Jared.
This week, I got to enjoy my new pedal called the Fettle Boost.
Yes.
And it was done by Champion Lecky. Wooly, our new buddy, does a fantastic job building these pedals. I love the different colored underwear that it's exploding.
Yellow in the front, brown in the back.
Yeah,
that's
it's
right.
not exploding underwear like that. There's an explosion out of which many pairs of underwears have.
Right, different color underwear and all that kind
shot
of thing.
out of.
It's cartoon underwear, so it's funny. So the pedal was at the house. You just saw it.
That's good.
But anyway, it's a great sounding pedal, great artwork. I love the thing. And I'm not really a big pedal guy like everybody else in the world seems to be.
You like little pedals.
But this is a little pedal, and
because he only has a size 14 foot.
That's right. But it's worth it. I love the pedal. It's a great addition to my little collection I have.
So he's got his theme is like the underwear.
I saw it.
That's a great episode. Hey, everybody, if you haven't heard the
I saw
Champion
his
Lucky
underwear.
episode, please download it. It is a hoot.
My personal favorite.
It's one of the favorites of
It's
the
funny,
fans out
man.
there. Tony, what's going on?
Well, this week, holy moly, all kinds of things.
Pick one.
I'm going to do two.
Pick two quickly.
I'll pick two quick.
We got a long show, man.
Can't rush genius, you know. So anyhow, I'm on a quest. I don't know why, but I'm on a quest for inexpensive pickups,
Okay.
and I found some
To clarify, you're looking for inexpensive, unique pickups.
unique looking
Gold foils.
Yes.
like gold foils, for
Okay.
instance.
All right.
So my good friends at All Parts have started stocking a couple of different things that I brought in today. A couple of gold foils and also a Hofner Staples style pickup.
Mm-hmm.
I just got them. They came in a day or two ago. I'm gonna take them out, put them in a telly that I've got scooped out that I can put different pickups in,
Awesome.
and we'll have a full report on inexpensive pickups. But more importantly, today in the mail, thank you, Amazon. My copy of Pink Floyd, all the songs, the story behind every track.
That's killer.
This book is like
That's about 4 inches tall right there.
it's the Pink Floyd
Thick,
Bible.
not tall.
I was looking at that.
That's
it
a
goes-
lot to have to read.
It goes track, album by album, track by track, single by single, and basically tells you who played what they played guitar wise and drums and whatever.
That
really
had to take
cool.
like
And-
20 years to put together.
I
man.
can't even imagine the amount of work that went into this.
The source then to find out really what's going on.
Apparently so. They did try to, I guess, source out as much of this as possible, but it's just really cool. There's a lot of little tidbits and
That's a
facts
cool
and
book.
things. If you have a chance, if you're a Pink Floyd, even if you're not a Pink Floyd fan, it's just a really good. I can't wait to really dig into it and start reading it all the way through.
That's
You can
amazing.
knock somebody out with that thing. It's huge.
No,
Oh,
but,
yeah.
but that's really cool. I mean, when I was a kid, I grew up in the 70s, and it's like they were huge. They were gargantuan, but I was kind of at the age where punk rock came in, and Pink Floyd they were a little bit, too bell-bottom for me and stuff, and I wasn't yet really a player. So it's like, as I've grown up, I was just talking to Charlie Starr about this last week, and we were talking about like David Gilmour. It's just like you go, where is his resource for taste? Because it's unlike anybody else. And if you talk about tasty guitar playing, it gets no better. When you sit there and you play that stuff, you just go like, he was so tasty, man. He's after stuff, man.
Yeah.
Much like my friend here. It's just like notes were meant to be. Every note matters. There's no kind of like mismatching kind of thing here about what's going on there. And it's just like, where'd that come from? What did he listen to get that? Because he defined taste, in many ways for that kind of music. And it's pretty amazing. That's a really cool book.
Yeah, I saw it in Vintage Guitar Magazine. They did a review of it, and I just said, I got to get that.
And might I add, talk about effects.
Yeah.
The dude pioneered.
Oh yeah.
I mean, Hendrix was key, but he was the gateway drug. But
No. Come on.
Gilmour was the
But even the first
king.
probably
Yeah,
almost
he was.
half of the book, there's a lot of stuff about Syd Barrett even before Gilmour came on board.
totally.
And he was doing some pretty cutting edge stuff too. And I didn't realize that he was doing all the guitar work. I'm done.
You're done. Okay, cool.
I'm done.
Gabriel, grab that mic. Hi. What's going on in your music world this week, bud?
I was talking to my friends at the music hall downtown in Detroit, and we're putting on the Music Week. They somehow asked me to help them, which I don't know how that happened, but there's a fashion show in June that Saks Fifth Avenue is putting on, and they asked me to help them put it on.
Oh, that's wild.
And it's just totally out of left field. So I was texting Jesse Hughes from Eagles of Death Metal.
Yeah.
I said, hey, Joe can't do it because he's on tour with the Vampires, and Jackson can't do it because he's on a tight schedule too.
Joe
Perry,
and Jackson
Brown. And they I got in touch with them, and because I asked them first, hey, it's like a gala event,
Sure,
and that kind of thing. And I've never done anything like this, so it's kind of interesting.
Sure.
They would even like allow me in the room,
Yeah.
kind of thing. So I said, hey, Jesse, there's a thing with Saks Fifth Avenue and runway models. And
That's
said,
all you had to say.
He said, and the next thing, I got this text in like 5 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
Yes. And
Okay, we'll handle that.
yes.
Yes. Yes.
Effing yes.
Effing yes.
I said, okay, cool. So I called Vince over at the hall, and so we're working on that. But this week in music, yesterday was the anniversary of both Leo Fender and Son House. Son House and Leo Fender share a birthday, and Son House is buried 2 blocks from my home.
Wow.
In Detroit, and Leo Fender is, of course, my alma mater and ex-boss and everything to me.
Yeah, we're gonna get into that a little bit.
So that yesterday was a quiet celebration in my mind
That's cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
and in my heart, and so that's what's going on this
Awesome.
week.
Todd, how about
Yes.
you? What's been going on in
Yeah,
your music?
what's up, man?
I have been playing musical chairs on my pedal board. I've had a lot of pedals in the house, and one of which sitting in front of us here, the Echopark. Now this is sort of kind of a Rangemaster kind of a thing.
Yeah,
What are we calling this?
FQ12.
The FQ12. So I am a sucker for rotary dials, and this has got a gargantuan rotary dial on it, which I really love, and it made it easy to distinguish the tones. I think that was the big key, because I think maybe one of the faults of a standard kind of Rangemaster is trying to find that sweep and just going like, where is it? Too many subtleties. And this kind of like puts you on the, stand on this dot for a second and just figure out where the rest of your tone is coming in between your guitar and your amp. So I found that extremely helpful. It's 2 big giant knobs, and it's got a boost to it. And then what the toggle, you want to explain the toggle real quick?
So the way the pedal works is basically it's 2 independent sections. One is a boost. One is a boost that's based on the LPV1, which is probably one of the earliest boost kind of units available.
Okay.
And so what I did was I took and I just kind of changed a couple of the values to make it very unity, so that it didn't affect the tone of the amp or the guitar signal coming into the unit.
Right.
Because I don't like things to color. I like things to really just kind of do their job.
Yeah.
And not affect.
We talk about that a lot on the show.
That's
actually.
well put.
That's something that we're very keen to.
Well put.
Yeah, I didn't want it to affect anything, and I wanted to eat the notch filter section to do its job independently. So at first it was a unit that was just operated by one pedal. And you had 2, you had a unity gain knob and the notch filter.
Right.
And it's got an inductor in there, so you can go between a half coil and a full coil.
Yep.
And
That's right. That's
6
what the
positions.
That's right.
Which gives you 12 actual, filtering notches to go through.
It's a blast to play with.
Yeah, and the boost can actually, like, on the front end of like a small single-ended amp, can really like kick it into like Marshall territory if you wanted to.
Yeah.
But by itself, it just does its own thing. So it was developed with Jack Douglas and Josh Homme during some recording sessions. I just had this idea, and I ran it by them both, and they said, yeah. And I was gonna actually do it as an API unit, just for recording purposes, and it just turned into a guitar pedal along the way.
This was all done pre-Russian collusion. So,
Well, I tell you what, it looks like it came off a World War II battleship or something. I mean, it
really does.
It looks like whatever it's going to do, you're going to inflict some damage.
When I first saw that pedal, Gabriel explained to me, and he demoed that pedal to me. It doesn't get any better than the person that designed the pedal shows you the pedal.
Sure.
So that was a real pleasure.
So again, big announcement at the end of the show.
That's right.
What is it? What is the announcement?
At the end of the show.
What is the announcement?
So anyway, so that's what I was doing, playing around with that pedal, and really, really dug it. So
1, 2, 3. 4 on the floor.
Gabriel, give me your 4 on the floor.
The Roland Chorus Ensemble was probably the first dual pedal of its kind, in that it had a vibrato section and a chorus section, and it actually sounded like what today would be the equivalent of like a roto vibe or that kind of thing.
Okay.
You know, and it just had this marvelous analog decay and just swirliness that you just still to this day I can't find anything that really works like that. So I used to when I was recording, I used to do 2 Princetons with the vibrato set at different rates with a little bit of chorus on it. And it replicated that like just amazingly. And so that is my number 1. My number 2 is a Ross distortion, the brown ones. If you can find one, get it. Yeah, the Ross distortion basically just had, overdrive and level. And
it had a big old plug.
Yeah, it had the big old plug on the back, and something about it just sounded better than at the time, which was, I'd say, 85, 86.
Holy crap.
I think you're older than that, actually.
Yeah, they're older than that, but when I got a hold of them, it was probably about that time. I had an MXR and a tube screamer and all that kind of stuff, and it just sounded like a cranked amp, and that's all I wanted to hear was a cranked amp in my bedroom. And so that pedal to me always has like a soft spot in my heart.
Awesome.
And actually I'm building a pedal that's based on that right now.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
With a cord?
With
The big plug in the back?
it's extra big, actually.
It's a 4-pronger.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, what do you have for number 3?
The Electro-Harmonix LPV1.
Okay.
Which is the staple, the beginning of preamp external overdrives, as far as I'm concerned. It's a single transistor, very simple. And some of the stuff that I've done is based on that. If you want to find the ultimate in overdrives, as far as like just a single, like a 10 to 15 dB, because they all varied, 10 to 15 dB punch in the nuts.
Okay.
That's what you want to get. Unfortunately, they didn't come as pedals. They were like external plugins. They were like the first kind of external plug. You plugged them into the guitar, and then you plugged the guitar cord into the box, and you turned it on with a big old switch. It wasn't very practical, but that was the beginning of that whole thing, and they just kicked ass.
How about number 4?
The Ibanez Analog Delay.
Okay.
1984. The purple ones.
Yep.
Or pinkish, or whatever they were. Those things just always sounded like not tape, but something in between tape and digital. And I don't know what they did. Thing that they do that doesn't exist anywhere to this day. And so we're coming out with something that's in that.
I think they were 80s or something like
Yeah.
With a better switch.
Okay. That's it for your 4, right?
Sure.
Because that's only 4. Awesome. Thank you
I
so
got
much.
one more, though.
You got one more? Give it to him.
Okay.
Okay, Eric,
I've
hit
got
us.
5 or 6, so I don't know. No, I'm
4.
just kidding. The 4 on the floor would be, without a doubt, I can't do without a wah pedal. I play like a 68 King wah. I don't know if you've ever seen them. They're just like real rounded off, funky looking things, Italian made.
Who makes it? King?
They're actually made by Jen. They're made by Jen Wah. They're Italian.
They're Vox.
Oh, the Vox.
It's a Vox wah pedal.
okay,
It's
Vox
King wah it was called, and
Okay.
it's just a really kooky old thing.
That's a great name for a band.
No, that's terrible.
And they have the, the iCar pot and all that stuff, but they're just like extremely vocal. I mean, just like very kind of noisy almost, but just, you can just hear all of that in them. And I just I can honestly, when I don't have one, I feel like naked.
Okay.
You know how Morley had the optical thing?
I have a few of those.
Kingwa that had. Did this have the pot thing with the lead?
Oh, sure. No, it's just like the wah pedal that we all became comfortable with, but just the one that I have is a really hard to find weird one that's just a king wah. And they made king wahs later, and most of them, they still have the chrome top and stuff, but this one is just a particular one that they came out in 68, and it's just like real rounded off, and it just looks...
weird.
Just
it's really cool.
Right on.
Awesome.
The other thing would be a super fuzz of a Univox, like a mid 70s, those pinkish with the blue switch. Just love them. I don't know. They're noisy too. Again, they're problematic, and you have to change it. I change out the jacks and stuff on them and everything, but they're just awesome. They're unbelievable. Yeah. They're not of this earth. So cool. Yeah.
So I got a question about the old vintage pedals, man. Can you replace some of the parts in them and yet keep
absolutely
and keep the same tone
and
all that kind of thing?
Absolutely. If you know what you're doing.
It.
Yeah, and you can. The tough part, I think, was a lot of the stuff that was like a lot of the Univox stuff. And it's amazing because I love Japanese stuff, but and they're brilliant electronics, but there was a cheapness to them too. So they can be problematic as a pro player or whatever you're playing gigs. There's nothing worse than a switch that goes out. It's like but sonically they were just off the charts. I mean, come on. If you ever get on one of those things, it's truly like it's dragging you down the road. You know what I mean? And it's just like hang on for dear life. It's amazing.
That's cool.
That is cool.
All right.
And another one would be another Univox pedal, Univibe, which everybody seems to be familiar with that too. But that would be, I mean, from Desert Island kind of stuff.
That's what this is for.
This is a question I always had. Is it Desert Island? Because if you're in the desert, how is it you're on an island? I never made sense to me.
Yeah, that's a type of island.
Or is it deserted?
It's a desert
did it just kind of twist it into desert island?
It's an island surrounded by water that has turned into a desert.
No, that's interesting. See, I never understood that. So it's just like Bugs Bunny when he was just like, yeah.
They might have a palm tree,
right?
But it's mostly
only
desert.
Awesome.
Only
okay.
one.
So that happens when you take the wrong turning at Albuquerque.
Sure.
Okay, so the Univox or the Univibe. What about
the fourth pedal? This is where I would tear my hair out deciding on the fourth pedal. But one of them would be a Musitronics. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this stuff. This is all old stuff, so I don't know. There's a lot of new pedals out there that are super cool, and I love them all. But these were ones I would pick because there were ones that I gigged with for years. Musitronics, yeah. They made Mutron 3s. They made they made an octave divider that is just to die for, and it had all kinds of selections of how you can manipulate the octave. Yeah, so they're like for keyboards, I think originally. I don't know for sure. But Neil Young used them. I don't know many other people. Yeah.
The original ones are like $500 to $700.
Right. Yeah.
And up to you could spend $2,000 on an old
tell me
Neutron.
about it. Yeah. No, I had a pair of them, and they were just robbed
me want
from me.
it.
Yeah, they're just wonderful though. I mean, honestly, and they were such a big part of my sound when I used to play a lot, and I could never do without them. And you can't. Octavias are great, and I love Octavias of the various different variations of that. But there's something to be said about the octave divider that Mutron made.
Awesome.
Yeah, very cool. So I'll leave it at that.
Right on. Well, I love the 4 on the floor, and I hope you guys do too. Make sure that you check out the website for all of the 4 on the floors, past, present, and future. We got some really interesting ones.
8 on the floor today.
That was an 8 on the floor. So that'll be 2 separate posts that we're going to put out. That's right, 2 separate posts. So we are here because Gabriel from Echopark Guitars is with us, and we've been talking to him for a little bit. Very interested to get him on the show. He was kind enough to drive all the way from Detroit,
Rock City.
come down and hang out with us in our studio, and we're just having a ton of fun. For those who are, not wondering how this all went down, or maybe you're not, but I'm just going to tell you anyways. We talked for at least an hour before we even started rolling with the show because we're just like, it was great conversation. So eager to share it with you. So Echopark Guitars, let's just kind of establish the scene real quick. So we can see these in the hands of
Aerosmith, Jackson Browne, Queens of the Stone Age.
One of my absolute personal mega favorites. I'm going to need one of your booster pedals here to jack up your voice.
Give him a 12 dB boost.
Eagles of Death Metal. Actually, my friends in Los Angeles, Dave Asti, and
So say it one more time.
Also Motley.
Oh yeah, Ozzy Motley. Okay, yeah.
Greg Lease. There's a long list.
There's a long list. But so point being is these are in the hands of some pretty influential players. I think that gives us a little bit more visibility to a boutique builder. You didn't just come along in the last 5 years and start building. You've been building a long time. We're going to get into that. But that said, you're still below the radar of most of the big brands, which is why you're on the show.
Yeah.
And you're making all of your guitars by hand selected wood. We're going to get into all that good stuff. So
Take us back to the very beginning.
Yes. Not the very beginning. How about just the beginning of what made you start building guitars?
Well, I had just out of high school, I'd gotten a gig working for Leo, and
Leo Fender.
Yeah.
The actual Leo Fender.
The actual Clarence Leo Fender, yes. And before that, I was apprenticing for a classical guitar maker out in Monrovia, California, and he knew George Fullerton really well, and he was getting ready to retire, and he said, "Hey, you should maybe, do this instead in production guitar work." And I said, I was kind of into doing classical, and just I was content with that, and but he was quitting. So he gave me a number and he set up the interview. Actually, I didn't have anything to do with it. He set up the interview and said, "Okay, you're going to go down here on this day and go see these guys." And I didn't really know anything about G&L. I knew about Leo and Leo Fender, but I didn't know about G&L. And so on the way down there, this is like 6 o'clock in the morning. I was taking a bus down to Fullerton at 6 in the morning to go, do this interview in Fullerton. And so on the way down there, I had a pamphlet and I had a magazine that had a review, I guess, it's an early guitar player magazine, and had a review of the Clarence Leo's operation. And so I kind of prepared myself. And by the time I got down there, I was infatuated with the idea. So when I got to the interview, I sat down when Leo was at a table, and George Fullerton, John Rodriguez, and Ed Seavest, who I think he works at Collings Guitars now, actually, Ed Seavest. And sat down with those guys, and they interviewed me and wanted to know my qualifications. And I had none, and other than the guitar that I brought with me that I built. And so I showed them the guitar, and Leo had suffered a couple of strokes by then, so he wasn't very mobile, and he wasn't very he couldn't talk very well. So he looked at it and he shook my hand, and he had an iron grip. And he nearly crushed my hand. Oh, wow. And he nodded at me, and he mumbled something in acceptance. And that was all I remember. And the next day I was in the wood shop learning how to run the pin routers. And the most dangerous tool in any wood shop, I might add, other than a shaper, is the pin router. And so I mastered that in about 2 weeks.
What does a pin router do?
A pin router basically was developed, I think, in the 40s. and they're a huge machine that has a
Overhead arm.
an overhead arm comes down, and you have a template underneath the material, and you use the pin that's coming up from the table to guide the material.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's what they use to do all the. If you go, I think on YouTube, there's a video of the early Fender factory, and you can see some of the guys,
50s,
doing that, and that's what.
These are like what 20 horse motors on those things. They're just
they will
monsters.
they will take your arm off.
Yeah.
And
boy.
so that's what I learned on in about 2 weeks. And so in about 2 weeks, the guy that was running the body making department at GNL quit, and I took over.
Oh, wow.
So
Baptism by fire.
yeah, so I was 19 years old, and I was making all the, and so like within like a month, Will Ray and the Hellcasters we started doing that line of stuff, and then just a bunch of guys like that, the old Bakersfield Cats and stuff like that he was getting into. It was just phenomenal. I knew, like, on the bus ride down there at 6 a.m, I was like, okay, this is, this might have the potential of changing my trajectory in life at this point. So I'm going to, like, dive into it. So I dedicated, the rest of his life to him, of my time. I showed up every day at 7:30 in the morning, and it was an amazing journey. And Ed Seavest, I think, and I were the only guys in the whole factory that really understood, like, how important this was to us as players. And I can't stress enough how blessed I felt every day, just walking in there and leaving tired and dirty, getting on the bus to go home for the 3-hour bus ride. Every day,
It was worth it.
It was
wasn't
so, and I knew it at the time. I didn't ever doubt that it was worth it. I always knew that this would be the even if it's just then, even if that's all I did then, that would be enough for me.
Yeah.
And I lived day to day on that.
I couldn't imagine the feeling you had when you shook his hand when he accepted you into the family, the Leo Fender handshake.
Yeah, no, it's still to this day is emotional.
Yeah.
And then the day that we laid him to rest, I was there and put the flowers on his casket. Surprisingly to me, there was no Eric Claptons or any of those guys in the crowd. It was just a small group of people, family and factory workers. Will Ray and a couple of guys
People
like that.
that really mattered.
Yeah, right. That were there and really shared the moment. It was raining and stormy and all that kind of stuff. And it was an atypical kind of funeral day in Fullerton. And we left the procession and went
atypical because for those who don't know, Fullerton is not a rainy area, and
It never rains in Southern California.
It really doesn't
ever. And it rained that particular day, and it came down in buckets, and we left there and went and got drunk somewhere, and
That's what you do.
And I remember
And ran the pin router.
yeah, but that day something left, me inside, and I was like, okay. So the next day I walked in and I quit the job and I went to work for another guy, and but that was enough for me at that time. I figured if I didn't manufacture another guitar, I was cool. I felt like I was cool. Ironically, that next day is when I asked the new owners, the John McLaren Jr., if I could take a minute and have a little time in Leo's lab. So I took and he said, yeah, sure, go ahead, And so Leo's lab was right next door to the wood shop. And it was just a little tiny office, and it had a loft above it, just a little tiny loft with a little wooden staircase, kind of ladder thing going up. And I said, can I, go in there and just have a minute and just kind of hang out and absorb it? Because I knew I was going to quit the next day. And so I went in there and I was kind of rummaging and looking through the paperwork and just kind of, just looking at his signature on different documents and touching the desk and, writing with the pencils and touching, different objects that were in there. He had a lot. He had a lot of like trinkets and different prototypes of tremolos and pickups and just things like that I thought were interesting, and some drawings. This is pre-cell phone, pre-Facebook, pre-selfie, so you couldn't do any of that stuff. And the one thing that caught my attention was a little ladder that went up to this crawl space. And I thought, well, it would be interesting if I could find anything up there. So I crawled up the ladder into the crawl space, and it was out of a Stephen King movie or novel, whichever you prefer. There was a beam of light coming through the outside vents and onto this little section of the attic crawl space. And in that crawl space, the outline was a guitar body covered in dust. And I crawled over to this thing in hopes that it would be like a 52 telly or something like that. What was that movie, The Raiders of the Lost Ark?
Oh, yeah.
It was one of those moments where it was like, oh,
I found the
grail. And I was dusting it off, and I was like kind of bummed out because it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. But I was like, underneath was the templates, and there was the blueprint. And I could see all the lines and the dates and everything. I was like, this is one that never made it out the factory.
You have the blueprints.
And this is one that kind of never was. And it was a 1969 prototype from the Trisonic R&D period, which was before they started doing the Music Man stuff after CVS had purchased Fender. And I took them down, and there was a few other things like a prototype tremolo and some other stuff. And I brought it down, and I dusted it off, and I looked at it, and I thought, fuck, how am I going to get this out of this office? How am I going to keep it? I got to have this, this is something really unique and special, and I want it, And so I walked outside, and I had this stuff in a case because I found an old T-Bass case up there too. And I had the stuff in the case, and I opened it up, and George McLaren Jr. was standing there with a beer. I said, hey, I found this stuff upstairs. It's kind of just whatever. Can I have it? And he said, yeah, take it, And I said, okay. And I shut the case, and
What can I stuff in this case?
Yeah, no, I just shut the thing and walked to the bus stop and split, and that was the last time I ever went back there until about 2007. No, 2008. I went back there, and anyway, so I drugged that guitar around around L.A. and Southern California from that date until 2008. And
You still have it, though.
I made a neck for that guitar, and I still have it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it is weirdly amazing because the thing is just like it's like the test guitar or whatever, but it's just super cool. You pick the thing up, and there's some serious. You get the chills playing it, but it just kills too. It's just a killer guitar. It's cool.
Wow.
It's awesome.
Really cool.
What a great story.
That is awesome, yeah.
But no, I got on the bus, and I took the thing home, and I had a neck that I had made in the shop at the time with Ed, and I put the thing together, and I had like a lefty trem and all this other goofy kind of box of stuff that I had. That was just like, I want to play this thing, And I put it together, and I started playing it immediately, and it just became my Excalibur kind of thing. I was never really a Strat guy, never really a Telly guy, never really a Les Paul guy, more into juniors and more into like old Supros and Valcos and that kind of thing. And this kind of fit into that realm. And so I was very comfortable as a player, kind of being able to tailor it into like what I wanted it to be.
That's awesome. Do you have pictures of it?
Everywhere.
You gotta post one. I mean,
I do.
People are gonna hit me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we got to see what this thing
You
looks like.
gotta throw a picture up for us, or send me one and I'll put it up.
It's the Clarence Custom is what I call it.
Okay.
Oh,
And
okay. The model that you have. Okay.
That's the Clarence Custom.
Oh, well, that makes
the
sense
real
now.
one. The real one.
The Clarence, yeah,
That's the one that he played.
Yeah.
It's always been
So-
his side whenever
Todd, we've had it all along.
yeah, the Clarence Custom model is the replica of that exact guitar.
Okay.
Yeah.
See?
Wait, that's the one that was based off of the one.
So the Clarence Custom is all the all the bolt neck guitars that are telly-ish looking are based off of that
Oh, wow.
instrument.
an old telly body up to it. It's slightly different. There's just it's improvements, if you will. I mean, just in its cuts and its routes. You know, you have to. But this particular one though, that Gabriel has is just it's the coolest.
Yeah,
Because Leo,
we need a picture of that.
it was in his
you
possession.
gotta.
I mean, if you wouldn't mind, it would be great to share that with the audience. 'Cause that story. I mean, that's great.
Well, it was a really unique punctuation to the end of what I thought was an era in humanity. Period. I
Many
mean,
will agree with you on that.
yeah, I mean, like if you look back at the modern production period, you know, punctuating on to Henry Ford and going in that direction. You know,
Right.
Leo took what Henry did and turned it into musical, instruments and inspiration for a whole nother, lifestyle, if you will.
So going from that experience, so off you go on the bus. Let's see if we can say fast forward to Echopark, the origin of Echopark Guitars.
Get past
Yeah, let's not. Yeah, the 90s. Actually, what happened is actually after GNL, I went to work for a guy named Taco Sono, and he was actually building for like Lukather and Vi and Zappa and guys like that. He actually was in tandem responsible for like the mail order guitar, the whole mail order guitar, thing at the time, which Warmoth wound up dominating actually, but he was the LA Warmoth basically, and he Japanese guy, and he had an attention to detail that was beyond what any of this, like, he was just crazy. And so we I apprenticed for him out of the GNL era, and I had a production thing about me that I was used to just kind of stamping out stuff and pin routing. And the first day with him was like, here's a die grinder, here's some necks, you're gonna shape necks with a die grinder today. And that's what you're gonna do for the next month. And so I learned how to shape necks with a die grinder for a month.
Wow.
And we actually did all the Roger Sadowski. There was a lot of who was that? The bass guy. Tobias basses. So it was Tobias, all that kind of like fledgling boutique guitar stuff. And the beginning of like the real high end kind of revolution stuff. All the USA custom Ibanez stuff, all the neck throughs. And I got into all that stuff real heavily, like immediately out of production at GNL. So that was like baptism by fire, and he taught me so much about like different woods and how they kind of married and what didn't work and what worked. And we used a lot of cocobolo, we used a lot of Brazilian, we used a lot of ebony, we used a lot of maple, we used a lot of different stuff that kind of combined. And it was kind
all of which are now making a huge I guess maybe come back?
Yeah, it was goofy because it was like at the time I was like just used to swamp ash and maple and alder, and so for me it was like, okay, this is kind of goofy, but okay, and so he turned me on to like all the real traditional stuff up to Fender and then beyond, and so I got a real immersement in
Of marrying woods together.
Yeah,
Like that, right?
yeah,
Is
and
that
then
something you have an knack for? It's interesting.
and also glues, different glues and different finishes, and the different use of the metal materials like steel versus brass and things like that, and neck pitches and how they related to string tension and things like that, and that's where the idiosyncrasies and dynamic and the interplay between different wood species and things like that. That's where I kind of like got my education, and he was self-taught from Japan. His wife actually financed the business, the $10,000 loan.
Nice.
So I got my first introduction into actual small business stuff as well. Looking back, I can go, okay, he kind of like conditioned me to like do what I do now, in a lot of ways. And about 10 years ago, 8 years ago, I think, 8 years ago, I sent him an email. I said, hey, thanks, man. It's just like, but, so that was the beginning for me. It was really like in a professional production facility and then into professional production boutique instruments at the cusp of the whole thing, So I really, coming from LA and being raised in the ghetto, and just listening to a lot of Sabbath and Jackson Browne and Gordon Lightfoot and Savoy Brown and Led Zeppelin.
The only time Sabbath and Gordon Lightfoot have ever been and Jackson Browne said in the same sentence.
Right? No, my dad, my parents were key in like enlightening me.
Sure.
They didn't just educate me; they enlightened me. And I lived under the Baby Grand for a year or two before I even started playing guitar.
Mm.
And when I started playing guitar, it was after hearing Hendrix at Woodstock. It wasn't after the Beatles or Gordon Lightfoot or James Brown or any of that stuff. It was after hearing Hendrix at Woodstock. I said to my dad, I had already had a guitar when I was 3, but I was about 10. And I said, hey, can you, how's about to get one of those instead, and so I finally got a guitar, and it was an old, was a Tosca. Yeah, it was an old Tosca. Yeah, it was like an old kind of Supro thing. Sure. And I got that and that little Gretsch amp. And I think I was about, 11, 12, something like that. And immediately the next day I took it all apart. I took everything apart. Right. I dissected it, and my dad was pissed. My mom was pissed, and they were both mad at me. But because they spent like $400, and I took everything apart and yeah. And all of a sudden, that was the beginning, that was where I started this whole thing was I think my dad's an artist. My dad's a visual. He does oil paintings and all that kind of stuff. And my mom was just crazy, awesome, but nuts. And I think I got it, that kind of thing from that, just.
So you got right in the middle is what you're trying to say?
Yeah, just somewhere in the middle of that whole thing. So I had no choice but to.
Sure.
So how long did it take you to put the guitar and the amp back together? Or did they ever go back together?
No, it took about a week.
Yeah?
Yeah, it took about a week, and they were very They didn't care, actually. Just that I was doing something other than being in the avenues of the Cypress Park gang or
Right.
smoking PCP or, that kind of thing.
Sure.
Anything other than that was cool.
Yeah.
So I wasn't, participating.
And for reference, just for in case people are wondering, you're making a couple of references to, I think, obviously where the name comes from. So Echo Park is a famed part of Los Angeles.
It's the ghetto.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
rough
it's one of them.
Yeah. So, anyways, you get to now you're off to. So we've dropped the Echo Park sort of reference in the name, and we've got your history behind you. How does Echo Park start? So that was part one of 2-part series with Echopark Guitars. It's a lot of information we're covering, and we're really appreciative to them for sharing their stories. Make sure you catch part 2 coming up next, the next episode that we release. So huge thanks to Echopark Guitars. Again, we'll look for episode number 2 to hear the conclusion to this awesome interview with everybody. Subscribe! Well, that's it for these knobs. Please visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/theguitarknobs. Visit our website at theguitarknobs.com for all of our past episodes, 4 on the Floor blog, and other good stuff. You can connect with us on social too at our Facebook page and share your gear and stories on our Facebook group. Also, be sure to check out our Instagram at Guitar Knobs. Catch you next time.